In this video, we're going to talk about symbolic interactionism. We're going to review it a little bit and then talk about how we can link it to social problems, the objectivity or subjectivity of social problems. Okay, so symbolic interactionism is another review from your Intro to Sociology class. It's a micro level theory, so you have to look at the small scale interaction among either groups of people or the you and me level. This is a theory in which social scientists say that individuals, all of the collection of interaction that individuals have around the world, builds society from the bottom up. So you have to have an understanding of macro scale social structure in order to interpret micro scale behaviors and see the link between micro behaviors and how society is built, or why, as an explanation for why society is the way that it is on the macro scale. And that is, in very short, very briefly, what symbolic interactionism is all about. Essentially, those theorists say that through interpretation of symbols, through interaction and interpreting the situation, making a definition of the situation, that people create social life, society on the macro scale from the bottom up with, they create reality simply by interacting with each other and establishing meaning in life that way. So there are a couple of classic theories that you might recall from your sociology class. One of them is called labeling theory, and another one is called social constructionism. And so labeling theory is the idea that you have groups with differing personalities, so to speak, who are in close contact with each other often. And though they're in close contact with each other, they kind of identify each other as different. And so otherness is plays a significant role in labeling theory. So if some people, usually authority figures, are some of the examples that are used in Intro to Sociology class. Usually authority figures, if authority figures interpret or assume that you are of the wrong crowd or a troublemaker or something, or from a troublemaking group, then the way that authority figures might treat you or interact with you might be with kind of like the impression from the get-go that even if you say hello, you're up to no good. And so this is something that we can tell from interaction with each other. You can tell whether somebody trusts you, whether somebody likes you, whether somebody's looking you up and down. You can tell what somebody's attitude is in general from the nonverbal cues that we get, and sometimes direct verbal cues. And so usually the opposing groups on the micro scale, not to be confused with neo-Marxism and the idea of opposing groups on the macro scale, but usually the differing points of view that people have on the micro scale, when they interact with each other, if they are distrustful of each other, it's easy to tell, and therefore it kind of shapes the reality around their communication, around the way in which the interaction takes place. And so in regard to social problems, quite often authority figures, people who have a powerful role in some individual or small group's life, might see that group's behavior, the assumptions that they make about that group's behavior, as problematic and try to fix it or create barriers for that group to behave in the way that that group wants to behave, and try to stamp out that behavior. And so that's labeling theory. And social constructionism is an interesting concept that talks really about micro-scale behaviors. And I like to think of it as social constructionism occurs when we kind of are stuck in an algorithm, in our own algorithm. We want to see these kinds of videos, or we want to see these kinds of messages, or we follow this kind of feed. And therefore, those are the only messages that we get. So in social constructionism, we create reality and our interpretation of reality based on what we see around us and what we consume on a daily basis. And therefore, if you have an algorithm that looks at natural disasters or, weather anomalies or something like this, then climate change might be one of those major situations that you see as a social problem that we need to fix today. What can I do my part on, on the micro scale? Or if you see police violence as something that is a major issue, you might focus on that. If you see hunger as your major issue, and these issues are something that if we research them once, we now know that like computer algorithms will keep on showing us the same messages. And so we will literally construct social constructionism. We will literally build our interpretation of reality around that particular social problem. And so these are ways in which symbolic interactionists look at the concept of social problems. It is within the eye of the beholder, and quite often it's something that we perceive because it's messaging that we get a whole lot, or it's something that we perceive simply because there are people around us that we interact with, have limited interaction with, but we come in contact with them regularly, that have differing ways about them, differing points of view, different belief systems or something. And so because of that disconnect between the us and the them, the otherness that we perceive, we can perhaps identify problems that are from our point of view that maybe are not part of their idea. That, maybe they disagree that it's a problem to begin with. And so that's labeling theory or social constructionism. And so, pardon me, please read about these concepts in your textbook, and you've got a lot of opportunity to write about any of these three theories, these 3 points of view, functionalism, conflict theory, or symbolic interactionism, for your reaction paper this week. Perhaps you've looked through all of the chapters in the textbook already, like I asked you to do last week, and you identified one or more that you're particularly interested in. You can maybe now consider which point of view are you likely to take if you were going to work toward activism and fix the social problem that you find to be the most prominent, or the one that you're most interested in. So consider that for a reaction paper topic, and I'll see you in the next video.